Pope Francis did something that deeply touched the hearts of millions around the world. As people gathered on Easter Sunday in 2025 to celebrate the resurrection of Christ, the Pope appeared one last time on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. He was visibly weak, sitting in a wheelchair, but his presence carried strength beyond the physical. It was not just another Easter blessing, it was a moment filled with meaning, reflection, and purpose. His voice was soft, but his words carried deep power. "Brothers and sisters, Happy Easter," he said. To many, it was a simple greeting, but for those who were watching closely, it felt like a final farewell. It was not said with fear, but with love, with hope, and with a spiritual urgency that made people pause and reflect. His presence, despite his illness, was not just about tradition. It was about sending one last important message to the Church and to the world. Pope Francis, during this last public moment, did something unexpected. He let his master of ceremonies deliver the main Easter address. It was rare, and many saw it as a symbolic gesture, as if he was passing the torch. Shortly after that moment, just hours later, the Pope's official account shared his final message: Christ is risen. These 3 words summed up the entire message of faith and hope that he had carried throughout his life. It wasn't just a traditional phrase, it was a compass, a spiritual reminder to stay focused on what truly matters. In his final days, the Pope began to speak more openly about spiritual readiness. He reminded people that the world was changing and that believers should not ignore the signs. But his tone was never one of fear. Instead, it was like a father speaking gently to his children, encouraging them to return to the truth, to stay grounded, and to not be distracted by what looks appealing but leads away from faith. He talked about how in today's world, it's getting harder to tell what is true and what is not. He said that confusion is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. It comes in the form of entertainment, culture, or even ideas that sound good but lead us away from God. He reminded the faithful to use discernment, to test everything and to stay close to the teachings of Christ. In one of his messages, he said, "Not every voice that speaks of peace leads to peace of soul." It was a powerful warning to think carefully about who we listen to and what we believe. Pope Francis also spoke about how the sacred is being treated in today's culture. He said that what is holy is often made to look ordinary, not because people fight against it directly, but because they stop caring. They become indifferent. They joke about it. They turn faith into entertainment. He urged people not to let this happen. He said, "Protect what is holy in your thoughts, in your homes, and in your daily lives." He also reflected on natural disasters and world events, saying that these things should remind us of how fragile life is. He didn't try to scare people. He didn't say these events were punishments, but he said they are opportunities, chances, to wake up, to reflect, and to return to God. He made it clear that the world is not always going to continue the same way. There are moments in history where things shift, and we need to be ready spiritually. Over and over again, he said, "Stay rooted, stay faithful. Let grace be your guide. In times of confusion, remember who you are and what you believe." He spoke of a growing need to return to the truth, because in a world filled with distractions, people are starting to forget what matters most. One of the biggest concerns Pope Francis shared was about how the name of Christ and the idea of holiness is being mocked more openly than before. Not always in violent or angry ways, but through comedy, through art, through media. Things that once were considered sacred are now treated like jokes. He said the danger isn't just in the jokes themselves, but in what they do to our hearts. They make us stop taking faith seriously. They make us forget the value of what we believe. He pointed out how entertainment today often crosses the line. Some movies and shows use religious themes in disrespectful ways, not to inspire people but to get attention. He said we should ask ourselves, is it ever right to fictionalize the sacred just for fun? Do we realize what we're watching? Are we helping to protect our faith, or are we slowly accepting its mockery? This was not a new warning. The Bible speaks about this. In the letters of Peter, it says that in the last days, people will mock faith. They will say, "Nothing has changed, everything is the same." But Scripture reminds us there is a time for mercy and a time for judgment. not judgment to punish, but to call people back to the truth. Pope Francis reminded us that God is not slow. He is patient, waiting for people to turn back to him before it's too late. He also spoke about how our culture is becoming more spiritually disconnected. People no longer see the need for grace. They think they can live life without God. But Pope Francis said that this is a dangerous path. He reminded us of stories in the Bible, like the flood in Noah's time, not just to scare us, but to show us that history does have turning points. There comes a time when choices matter, when decisions bring consequences. He said that the modern world is entering a new season, a time of spiritual shift. Many believers feel it. Some feel unsettled. Others feel called to pray more, to reflect and to change. Pope Francis said that the signs are not always loud. Like the changing of a season, they come slowly, quietly, but clearly. And when you see the signs, you need to prepare, not with panic, but with peace. He reminded us that Jesus also spoke about this. He said no one knows the day or the hour, but that we would be able to see the signs if we were spiritually awake. One of those signs, according to Scripture, is the return of the Jewish people to their homeland. For nearly 2,000 years, the people of Israel were scattered. But in the 20th century, something changed. They began to return. In 1948, the nation of Israel was reborn. Pope Francis pointed to this as a sign, something the Bible had spoken of, now fulfilled in our time. He spoke about how Jesus used the image of a fig tree to teach about signs. When you see a fig tree blossom, you know summer is near. In the same way, when you see these signs in the world, you should know that something greater is happening. History is not random. It follows a divine pattern, and we are invited not to fear it, but to understand it. The land of Israel, once barren, is now fruitful, and some Jewish people are now exploring the teachings of Jesus in ways not seen before. These moments, though small, carry deep spiritual meaning. They are signs that a new season is beginning, not just for one nation, but for all of us. Pope Francis said that we must be spiritually awake to recognize it. He also warned that future systems of power, whether political, social, or financial, may pressure people to compromise their beliefs. The Bible speaks about a time when economic systems will require allegiance to certain ideas or leaders. Whether or not this happens in a specific way, the point is clear. Will people remain faithful when tested? Today, we already see how technology connects everything. Digital payments, identity tracking, and global systems are becoming normal. These tools are not evil by themselves, but they raise a question. Are we choosing convenience over conviction? Are we still making decisions with our faith at the center? In Scripture, it says that those who stay faithful during hard times are examples of true courage. Across every era, there have been people who stood firm, even when mocked or rejected. And Pope Francis reminded us, we are called to be like them. Even if belief becomes unpopular, even if the world laughs, we must stay rooted in truth. He said we must protect what is holy, not by fighting others, but by living with integrity. The answer is not to be angry, but to respond with grace. Jesus himself was mocked, rejected, and misunderstood. Yet he responded with love. That is our example. Pope Francis said that every person one day will see the truth, not by force, but because truth cannot be hidden forever, and the choice we make now matters. We can choose to return to God or stay distracted by the world. But the door of grace is still open. He reminded us that this message is not about shame. It's about transformation. We all fall short. But faith is not about being perfect. It's about being honest and willing to change. Salvation is not just about forgiveness. It's about purpose. We are called to live for something greater than ourselves. One of the Pope's most serious concerns was that many people today are rejecting the need for grace altogether. It's not just about mocking faith. It's about saying we don't need it anymore. But history and Scripture show us that this is a sign of spiritual danger. When people stop listening, when they stop caring, they move further away from the truth.